Silence after the storm. She survived the war, but the real battle didn't end. Watch the truth she never told before it's too late. Silence after the storm opening scene. The soft hum of the airplane faded as the cabin doors opened. Aria stepped out slowly, her boots touching home soil for the first time in years. The sun was bright, too bright, almost painful. She blinked, trying to adjust. Around her, families were crying, hugging, laughing. But Aria stood alone, her duffel bag hanging from her shoulder, heavy not with gear, but with memories. She whispered to herself, "I'm home. But why doesn't it feel like home?" Scene 1, the first night Aria sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the familiar walls of her old room. Everything was the same, but she was. When she finally lay down, she hoped sleep would give her peace. Instead, it gave her the echoes. Boom, the sound ripped through her mind, the bright flash, the sand, the shouting. Aria gasped and jolted awake, drenched in sweat. She grabbed the sheets, grounding herself, breathing deeply until her heartbeat slowed. "It's over," she told herself. But deep down, she knew it was. Scene 2, trying to live again the next morning, Aria walked through town. People smiled at her uniform. Some thanked her. Some stared too long. Everything felt loud. A passing truck backfired. Aria flinched, dropping her keys. She exhaled shakily and kept walking. She eventually found herself in front of a small, quiet library. She stepped inside. The silence embraced her like an old friend. A young librarian looked up with a warm smile. "Looking for something?" Aria shook her head softly. "Just quiet." The librarian nodded as if she understood. Scene 3, the internal war days passed. Aria tried to settle into normal life, shopping, cooking, walking, but the world felt distant, like she was moving underwater. One evening, she sat on a bench by the riverside. Children laughed nearby, and the water glimmered peacefully. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small metal dog tag. Her fingers traced the name engraved beside her own. "Mason," she whispered. The memory hit her: the sandstorm, the attack, her teammate falling beside her, her voice screaming his name. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you." Scene 4, a voice in the dark. One night, unable to sleep, Aria walked outside. She found herself wandering to a small veteran center at the edge of town. The lights were dim, but the door was open. Inside, a woman around Aria's age sat at a desk. "Rough night?" Aria nodded. She didn't have to pretend here. The woman gestured to a chair. "Sit, talk if you want, stay silent if you need." For the first time in months, Aria felt safe enough to breathe. And that night she spoke. Not everything, just a piece. It was enough. Scene 5, the turning point. Weeks passed, and Aria began visiting the center regularly. She joined small groups, met others like her, shared stories, listened to theirs. Each story connected to hers in unexpected ways. Slowly, the weight on her shoulders began to shift. One day, the woman at the desk asked, "Have you ever thought about telling your story to the world?" Aria hesitated. "Why would anyone listen?" "Because someone out there needs to." Aria went home that night and sat in front of her camera. She stared at her reflection, tired, strong, wounded, alive. She pressed record. Scene 6, her story begins. She spoke softly. "My name is Aria. I survived battles the world never saw, but the real war began when I came home. These are my untold stories." Her voice trembled at first, but with each word she grew stronger. She didn't talk about explosions or missions. She talked about fear, loneliness, healing, hope. And for the first time, she felt like her voice mattered. Final scene, finding light. Months later, Aria walked through town again. This time, something felt different, not the world, her. She paused on a bridge overlooking the river and breathed deeply. The nightmares still came. The memories still hurt. But she wasn't drowning anymore. She whispered to the wind, "Mason, I'm moving forward, and I hope you'd be proud." A gentle breeze brushed her hair. Aria smiled, small but real. She walked away with steady steps, the sun warming her shoulders. Her war wasn't over. But for the first time, she wasn't fighting alone.